We honor Santa's presence, the work he does on that special night, and the love he represents with nature's perfect food, the cookie. When I make these wonderful cookies, I can't help but think about the tribute we pay each other by taking the time to see something deeper and more magical in each other this season. This is a very simple recipe, but the result seems fancy and sophisticated. Sometimes the special things don't take much more than honesty, work, and a little love. I'm Jenny Randolph. Welcome to This Day. Welcome back. This time around, we are making my famous turtle cookies. And if you remember what a turtle is, it's a candy, and it's made with chocolate and pecans and caramel, and they're absolutely one of my favorite candies on the planet. And I decided that I was gonna take that and turn it into a cookie. And cookies right now, during Christmas time, are super, super important around here. We always leave the best cookies out for Santa. It's like one of those traditions that we can't go to bed until Santa's plate is completely ready. And I'm sure that a lot of you have that tradition as well. It might not be cookies, sometimes it's cake, sometimes it's, maybe carrots for the reindeers and all variations of stuff. But around here, we're pretty serious about these cookies. So let's get started and I'll show you how to make my amazing turtle cookies. So the first thing that we want to do is take a stick of unsalted butter. Now this butter is room temperature, so it's nice and soft because we want to cream it with our sugar. So put that in the mixing bowl. And if you didn't know, 1 stick of butter is the equivalent of a half a cup of butter and also 8 tablespoons. We're going to take a half a cup of regular sugar and a half a cup of light brown sugar. Now, when you're measuring brown sugar, you always want to make sure that you press it down. That is going to give you the most even, exact cup amount. Now we're going to put the mixer on medium speed for about 2 or 3 minutes until the butter and the sugar have a chance to cream together. And as usual, we'll stop it in the middle. We'll scrape down the sides to make sure all the butter is incorporated and give it about another 30 seconds or so. Now to our butter and sugar mixture, we want to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And you'll notice that I'm not using my vanilla paste this time. With these recipes, it really is better just to use the vanilla extract. I want to use my vanilla paste. Everybody knows that I want to use it, but this time around, it really does work better with the extract instead of the paste. Now we also want to add to our butter and sugar and vanilla extract 1 egg. Go ahead and give that a good mix. Once again, we're just going to give a good scrape of the side of the bowl. All right, now that that is all mixed together, we want to start on our dry ingredients. Now here I have 1.25 cups of all-purpose, well, it's organic all-purpose flour, so there's nothing that has been added to this. So now to this flour, we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Give that a good mix. Now we're going to add our dry ingredients to our wet ingredients. And once again, a lot of scraping this time around, but we want everything to be incorporated. So we're just going to do our job and scrape down the sides of the bowl. Now I want to stop here for just a second and let you know that this basic cookie recipe, up until this point, you can use for anything. Now, from this point, you can add any kind of stuff that you want. You can add peppermint chips, you can add dark chocolate, you can add walnuts, you can add cinnamon chips, anything that you want in the cookie. This is a fantastic basic cookie base that I use all the time. And then this is the part, the next part we're gonna do is when you can get creative. This is when we make our cookies into the turtle cookies, into the chocolate and caramel and pecan stuff. So now that we have that finished, it's gonna look like a lot of stuff that we're putting in. And frankly, it is a lot of stuff, but I like my cookies dense and I like them filled with stuff so that every single bite you really do have a chance to get a piece of the pecan and the chocolate and the caramel. I bought these salted caramel chips. They were in the holiday aisle at my local Target. And if you can't find them in your local grocery store, Amazon is sure to have them somewhere. You can use regular caramel chips or salted caramel chips. I'm using the salted caramel chips today because I just think they have a really, really good flavor, and I don't like my desserts really sweet. I like them a little bit on the saltier side. So this is my preference today, but again, get as creative as you want. After you make this base, you can do anything you want. That's the beauty of this. So we're gonna add 1 cup of pecan pieces. Now you want them small, you don't want them whole pecan. So if you can't find the pecan chips or the pecan pieces, go ahead and take a knife and run them through. I found the pecan pieces, so we don't have to do that today. And then it's gonna be 3/4 of a cup of your caramel chips. Today we're using salted caramel. And 3/4 of a cup of milk chocolate chips. And again, if you don't like milk chocolate, you can always add dark chocolate. But when I think about the turtle candies, I always think about milk chocolate. And so that's what I'm gonna use today. This is gonna sound really crunchy when you hear it, and there's a lot of ingredients, but just keep going, keep mixing it in. We're only gonna pulse this and mix this for about 45 seconds or so. Now I have my oven set at 325 degrees on my convection bake setting. Now, if you're not familiar with what convection bake is compared to just like your regular oven settings, convection bake doesn't use direct heat. Like you have the heating units in your oven and it's gonna put that heat down. Well, what convection bake does is it uses the hot air. It heats up the air and it has the fan in the back of your oven. And what that does is it allows the air to move over your baked goods and anything that you want to really get brown under and over. And so that air really gives them a very, very even baking temperature. And it's just a really nice way. Like I said, I love using it for cookies and for pies and any kind of baked goods that I'm doing during the holiday season. But if your oven does not have a convection setting at all, the air bake setting basically, you're gonna wanna up the temperature to 350 degrees. And that's gonna ensure that these cookies get baked in a pretty good manner and that they melt the way that they're supposed to melt and they cook the way that they're supposed to cook. And that's a really good rule of thumb. Anytime you're wanting to try a convection bake and you see an original recipe, just use the temperature that they give you and take it down about 25 degrees if you're going to use the convection bake setting on your oven. But anyway, so back to it one more time. I'm setting these at 325 degrees on my convection bake setting on my oven. So the way I like to measure these out is I have my handy dandy 1 tablespoon ice cream scoop. Again, if you don't have a set of these, ask Santa for them because they really are a baker's tool. They're amazing, and you've heard me talk about them a million times. I'm not gonna say much about it this time. But anyway, so I like to take the tablespoon scooper and I like to overfill it just a little bit so you get maybe like 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons worth of cookie dough on there, and I'll show you what I mean. So as you can see, I like to just overfill it just a little bit, and it basically is 2 tablespoons worth. And I'll take that and I'll just give it a gentle roll just so it's kind of even and plop it right down on my baking sheet. And the more you bake cookies, you can kind of tell when you're rolling them in your hand, you can kind of tell the amount and by the weight. And the more you practice, it's just like with anything, the more you practice, the better you're gonna get at what you need to do and how you need to go. And as you're doing it, if you see one cookie is a little bit bigger than the other, just take some out, re-roll it, put it back on the pan. This is not rocket science, folks. It's really not that big of a deal. We just want to make sure that they're fairly even with each other, because then they bake all at the same time. But if one's a little bit bigger and one's a little bit smaller, that's okay. We're all different, and they're gonna eat the same no matter what. They're all gonna taste amazing. This cookie dough does really well in the refrigerator, so if you are in a time crunch or anything like that, you can always make up this dough and cover the bowl and put it in the fridge. Just let it sit out for a couple of minutes so it softens up so that you can roll it a little bit easier. But really, you could make it the day before. Again, just make sure you cover it so that it doesn't absorb the flavors of your fridge, because then you know, just like butter and all of the stuff, it can sometimes, you know, if you got onions in there or something like that, it can always absorb the yuck in your fridge. So make sure that it's covered. And you could even make these into balls and then put them in your freezer and have them sit there for a couple of weeks, and then just pull them out. And if you only want a couple of cookies at a time, you can do that too. Okay, I'm gonna move these all down. See, and this is part of baking that like nobody tells you that you have to do. You watch all of those professional people on TV and they never have to move anything around, and they never have to change what they're doing or make anything, you know, they never make any spills, and you know, it's always so perfect. Well, that's not how it is around here, and we just had to readjust so that we could fit 3 more on this tray. I think sometimes when you think you have to be perfect, it's, you know, it's intimidating, and then that keeps you from doing what you wanted to do in the first place. But most of my recipes, you do not have to be perfect. So we got about 15 on this jelly roll pan, this cookie sheet, and it's gonna go into the oven for 15 minutes. Again, it is at 325 on my convection oven setting. So once these come out of the oven, you're gonna wanna let them sit on the tray for about 5 minutes before you try to move them at all. Let them cool, let them finish settling in, because they'll be really gooey, and the sugar and the dough and the chocolate just needs to firm up a little bit before you even try to move them. But they turned out amazingly well. I'm so happy with them, and we are ready for Santa around here. I'm gonna stick these in a tin so that they keep a little bit better, so that we can put them out on Christmas Eve, and I'm so excited. If you have liked this video today, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you're already subscribed, hit that little bell right up in the corner, because that is gonna notify you whenever I have a new video out. And I just want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I want to wish you a very, very Merry Christmas. I'll see you next time.